Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. I am Ryan Bone, and thank you all for joining me. So, in an interview with Breitbart News, former President Donald Trump stated that he believes Oprah Winfrey, in her interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, was thoroughly embarrassed. And why? Because Kamala Harris could not answer any question in a cohesive way. I mean, she just went all around the merry-go-round. And for those of you who suffered and endured the horrors of that supposed interview, you know what I'm talking about. So let's get right into this article. I think there's a couple of videos, audio clips that I'd like you guys to listen in on way back in the 80s when Trump was friends, if you will, with Oprah Winfrey. So let's get right into this. Former President Donald Trump told Breitbart News exclusively that he believes Oprah Winfrey was, quote, embarrassed by Vice President Kamala Harris's lack of preparation on major issues, which was on display during Winfrey's interview and event with Harris on Thursday. And like I said before, I don't understand why she would have been even interviewed Kamala Harris, because I would think that, or rather one would think that, okay, Oprah, you should know how Kamala Harris is when it comes to interviews. You should know that she talks off the top of her head and everything comes off the top of her head because there's nothing on the top of her head except her hair. I mean, you should know that, but whatever. Anyway, she didn't have an answer to anything, and she made a fool of herself on Oprah, Trump said of Harris during an interview with Breitbart News on Sunday afternoon. Oprah wanted to crawl under the table. She was embarrassed by it. And like I told you guys, I didn't see the interview, so I can't give my comments on how Oprah may have looked. You know, I seen clips of it. She did not look too happy. Okay, but clips is different than seeing the whole entire interview. But honestly, let's be real frank. Do we really need to see the entire interview to know that Oprah Winfrey was embarrassed by this so-called interview? Do we really need to see the entire interview to know that Kamala Harris did not have any real answers to the questions that were given to her? I don't think so. But anyway, several people criticized Harris for her inability to answer basic questions during the town hall event with Winfrey, such as how she would lower prices if elected president. Because she's not going to. Come on, how many times I got to keep saying it, right? We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living, one couple asked Harris during the event. In response, Harris rambled on and on without offering any specifics at all. And I don't know if Oprah, after she rambled on and on, after Harris supposedly rambled on and on and on without giving any specifics, I don't know if Oprah, hammered her with it and said, okay, could you give us an answer? I don't know, or did she just move on to the next question, like they tend to do with her, like they tend to do with Harris. Harris rambles on and on and on. She doesn't give a real answer. And then instead of the reporters pressing her for the answer, they move on. I don't know. Anyway, it was hardly the only time during the Oprah Winfrey show appears that Harris had major problems. It says Trump told Breitbart News that he knows Winfrey better than Harris does because he and Winfrey go way back, long before Trump's entrance into the political arena. And that is true, okay? I know Oprah better than she does because before I was in politics, Oprah and I had a great relationship, Trump said. She was at Mar-a-Lago many times. However, Trump said he and Winfrey do not speak anymore, quote, because of politics. That's so sad. Says politics can make a lot of enemies out of what were once friends, Trump said. That's true. That's true. But Oprah was at Mar-a-Lago numerous times for very big events she gave. But the biggest was the funeral of Roger King of King World, who was a great guy. This was arranged by Oprah, who said, quote, this is the most beautiful place. Can we have his funeral here? Roger King was responsible for Oprah. Trump is absolutely correct that King's Winfrey's benefactor funeral at Mar-a-Lago and that Winfrey attended it per news report from that time. Trump's relationship with Winfrey goes back decades, and in fact, he first openly teased a possible future presidential run on her show way back in the late 1980s. And I did see a clip of that, and I'm going to try to let you guys listen in on some of the audio here. So let's get right into this.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would
people, I don't know how your audience can't talk to so easily. I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you...
Wait a minute. Let me start that over. I think I made an error here. Hold on one second.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily. I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. You know, they all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around all three of those candidates can be very proud of the jobs they've done.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing. This country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
You heard that, right? You know, it's interesting. The way Trump talked back then is the way he talks now. Obviously, he's much younger during that time, but the way he talked back then is the way he talks now. Straightforward in your face, and he stated to Oprah, it's like, well, I don't know about running. When she asked him, would you run? You know, it sounds political. It's like, well, I don't know about running. I'm not going to rule it out. Yeah. You could tell. And I could go into deeper territory with that, but it's interesting. You know, him and Oprah, they were cool. You know, they were cool. But I'm going to read the rest of this article because I want you guys to get the gist of this. Trump also even told Larry King in 1999 when he was contemplating a run for president that he would consider Winfrey his first choice as a running mate. And let me see if I can get this here for you guys. Here's the audio clip of him.
Let's get into some things. The Reform Party, by its name, means reform. You will be leaving, if you run this, you'll be leaving what, the Republican Party?
I'm a registered Republican. I'm a pretty conservative guy. I'm somewhat liberal on social issues, especially health care, etc. But I'd be leaving another party, and I've been close to that party.
Why would you leave the Republican Party?
I think that nobody's really hitting it right. The Democrats are too far left. I mean, Bill Bradley, this is seriously left. He's trying to come a little more center, but he's seriously left. The Republicans are too far right. And I don't think anybody's hitting the chord. Not the chord that I want to hear, and not the chord that other people want to hear. And I've seen it. Plus, I think there's a great lack of spirit in this country. What's happened over the last 4 years is disgusting, and I just think there's a tremendous lack of spirit, and I think the spirit has to be brought back.
You have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
It's just
Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice. Oprah, your competitor, right?
Oprah's competitor.
You know what? I'll tell you, she's really a great woman, though. She is a terrific woman. She's somebody that's very special. I have not even thought about it. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that's part of the whole process.
Would she be kidding aside, that you might think
if she'd do it, she'd be fantastic. I mean, she's popular, she's brilliant, she's a wonderful woman. I mean, if she'd ever do it, I don't know that she'd ever do it. She's got,
you'd ask her.
She'd be sort of like me. I mean, I have a lot of things going. She's got a lot of things going.
What a ticket
that would be a pretty good ticket, but she's a very exceptional woman.
What makes a good president?
Well, I think the leadership qualities. You know, the sad part about President Clinton, who I happen to like a lot, but he could have had a great presidency if the whole thing with Monica and Paula Jones, and the worst of all is, Linda Tripp. I mean, this woman, where she came from, I have no idea, but this is the woman from hell.
But he didn't have anything to do with Linda Tripp.
No, he didn't, but she always seems to surface, and she's just became a part of the administration.
But can't you say, in all honesty, as Reagan asked when running against Carter, haven't you done better under Clinton?
Donald Trump. You know what? The truth is that Rubin and Alan Greenspan and, those appointments,
it's on his watch.
And it is on his watch. And the sad part is, and what I'm saying is that he could have gone down as a...
That's all I'm going to give right there, y'all. We could go on and on with this. But I want you guys to hear for yourself a lot of the stuff that he's saying here. Let me just finish the article on this. Of course, Winfrey is now a partisan Democrat and appeared. And you know what's interesting about this is the fact that Trump and this was in 1999 when he was he was being interviewed by King in 1999 on CNN. And what's interesting to me is that he said he's a registered Republican. And I've always heard that he was a Democrat. But according to, he may have been at one point, but according to this, he's a registered Republican. But I find it so interesting about what he mentioned about how that the Democrats are too far left and the Republicans are too far right. And I heard when I heard him say the Republicans are too far right, I got to thinking there can be a such thing now. Okay, I understand now that you can be too far right in the sense that if you say, okay, we're not going to have this, we're not going to have that, we're not going to have this, we're not going to do that, it's not going to work because a lot of people in America is not going to support that, and you won't get the votes you need if you're too far right. See, as a politician, you may have to make some concessions. That's the one thing that before I read and sum this up, that's the one thing that I've learned about myself. As a Christian and as a man of God, I don't believe in abortion, in any kind of abortion, any kind, whether it's through rape and incest. I don't believe that the child should be aborted. And I have my reasons for that. Okay, I have my reasons for that. I'm not going to give it here because it'd be a long video. However, if I was running as a politician, as a Republican politician, because I would definitely only run as a Republican, because those policies are more in line with what I believe in personally. But if I was running as a Republican, I probably would be a little closer to the middle of the argument in terms of abortion. And what I mean by that is I would allow concessions of aborting the child if it was by incest or rape. And I would allow it not because I necessarily agree with it morally, but as a politician who's trying to get votes, I would have to give that concession. I would have to say, okay, well, you have to give them that option if you want to win their votes, okay? And so as a politician, I would have to make those compromises. I hate to say that, but that's how politics work. Politics is all about trying to win people over, to convince people of your argument and get everyone on your side. And that's why a lot of times you want to be you don't want to be too far to the right. You don't want to be too far to the left. You want to be kind of like in the middle because you're trying to reach everyone. The only ones you're not trying to reach is the idiots, okay? On either side, the nutbags. You'll never be able to reach them, period. They're hardcore into what they're in. You'll never be able to reach them. But for undecided people and people that kind of like can be swayed a little bit, you're going to have to move a little bit to the middle. So I've come to understand that now if I was trying to be a politician. But as a man of God and as a pure Christian, no. Okay, and I have my reasons for that. But anyway, let me sum this up. Of course, Winfrey is now a partisan Democrat and appeared at the Democratic National Convention to back Harris when she swooped in to take the 2024 nomination after outgoing President Joe Biden stepped aside when he bombed at the debate against Trump in June. Then she hosted this event with Harris, which by all accounts was a disaster for Harris's campaign, as Harris demonstrated to viewers that she lacks the ability to articulate a coherent policy vision for the nation. For the nation. Yeah, yeah, and you saw that book fall right there. I don't know why that happened. Okay, Satan, you a lying wonder. If you in here, I rebuke any spirit in the name of Jesus. What did you saw that, didn't you? Devil mad. He not be mad. But anyway, that's the end of that article right there. It's an interesting bit of information, and it's crazy how that, as the article states, that OPRAH is more onto the Democratic side, more on the leftist side. He finds that, and that's a problem for Trump, obviously. And he probably would, he probably didn't forgot all about the idea of picking her as a running mate and whatever, vice president or running mate, whatever. Back then, he said he would possibly consider it, but now he's already picked J.D. Vance, but now no, because to support Kamala, knowing that to back Kamala and have these interviews with her to appear in the Democratic, knowing this woman is not smart at all. She's not smart at all. She may have been smart as a prosecuting attorney, but when it comes to politics and really giving people answers, she's not smart at all. She can't think on the top. She can't think on her feet. And I believe she can't think on her feet, not because her brain cells is messed up. I believe she can't think on her feet because she lacks knowledge of what it is that she's in. And when you lack knowledge of what it is that you in or you claim to be in, when people ask you questions, you're going to make a fool out of yourself. It's just like a preacher and someone who's been claimed to be called by God and preaching the word of God. But then when you ask them the plan of salvation, or you ask them spiritual questions or questions about the Bible that every preacher should know, and they can't answer that, then it's like you sound incompetent. How can you claim to be a preacher, a man or a woman of God preaching the word, and you don't know basic theology? So the same principle here. It's like, the problem with Kamala Harris isn't that she's not smart in general. The problem is that she lacks knowledge when it comes to politics. She lacks knowledge when it comes to economics. She lacks knowledge when it comes to foreign policy. She lacks knowledge when it comes to the general concepts of politics. She does. And it's crazy to me because people have made this argument about Trump. Well, Trump doesn't know anything about politics. Our country is so messed up. Why would we vote for someone who doesn't know anything about politics? Woo, 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 woo. But Trump has been talking about this kind of stuff for all the way back in the 80s at how our country, and you heard the audio clips, how our country is just failing this way back in the 80s. And even though he may not have been a politician in the classical sense, it seems to indicate to me, based on what I've heard from these interviews back in the 80s with Winfrey and with Larry King, that he had a passion and has a passion, a true passion for the country. And he wants to see the country prosper. So he may not be your classical politician, but it seems to indicate to me that he has a passion for the country, something that Kamala Harris does not have. The way I see it, she doesn't have a passion for the country, and she lacks knowledge on articulating an economic plan for this country. She goes all around, and that amazes me. That always amazes me. How can someone sit up and listen to Kamala Harris supposedly give these answers when she's really giving word salads? We've heard that said a million times. And not give a cohesive answer. And then they still go right behind and rah, rah, rah for this woman. It makes no sense to me on the surface level. I understand on a deeper level, but on a surface level, it makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. And this is why I don't like to talk to people like, I just don't. People that are so far, that are so pro-Democrat, and so hateful towards Trump, they're willing to vote for some person that has no knowledge in economics, best just about, no knowledge in foreign policy, no knowledge in politics in general. Did you willing to vote for this person simply because you hate Trump so much? It makes no sense on a surface level. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And it amazes me. It absolutely amazes me that people would think that. But yeah. Trump felt like that Oprah was embarrassed about this. And rightly so. Here you are, you taking the time to conduct this interview. You set everything up. You can conducting this interview with this woman for whatever reason, okay? Other than the fact that you're conducting this interview. And this woman just rambles all over. I don't know how long the interview was. I don't know. But she just, based on what I've heard and seen, she just rambles and rambles and rambles and creates all these multifaceted word salads and never gives anyone a cohesive answer. And Trump's accusation that, or his assertion rather, that Winfrey was embarrassed, he believes that Winfrey was embarrassed by the whole incident, she probably was. Because now I can imagine Oprah Winfrey sitting back and saying, man, this is ridiculous. I made a fool out of myself by interviewing this woman. This woman said nothing. She gave no real cohesive answers. So to be honest with you, and I'm going to end the video on this because this went longer, but to be honest with you, I hope millions of Americans, undecided ones and ones that decided that they want to vote for Kamala Harris, I hope all of them have seen that interview because hopefully they'll see, okay, you're going to vote for a dud, an absolute dud. Not because of her as a person. I'm not attacking her personality. I'm not attacking her character because I don't know much about her character. Okay, I refuse to attack her character because that's what the left does all the time. That's what Democrats do. All these radical Democrats do all the time. They attack people's characters. They don't have nothing else to do, so they attack your character, which makes no sense. What do you know about anybody? Stupid stuff. But anyway, I digress. That's not what I'm attacking. I'm attacking the things that she's saying. Okay, the crazy things she's saying, her lack of giving a cohesive answer, that's what I'm attacking. And that's what needs to be attacked. And in this situation, if hopefully people have seen this interview all over this country and say, you know what, I'm not finna fool with this. I'm not going to do this. This woman doesn't know anything. She is not going to change anything. And so, yeah, it's crazy. I would agree with Trump on this. I think Oprah embarrassed herself with this crazy interview. But that's what I had to say about that. What do you guys think about this? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless y'all. See you again.